What happens when a simple arrival turns into an emotional earthquake? What if a coincidence is not just a coincidence, but the beginning of a silent storm? And what if the people involved never planned to cross paths, yet destiny placed them in the same room anyway? Welcome back to Magazine News and Gossip, where today's story doesn't begin with shouting, scandals, or explosive headlines. It begins with silence. An uncomfortable, heavy silence that speaks louder than any argument ever could. This story started with Sarah's arrival in Spain. No announcement, no public gestures, no dramatic social media posts to draw attention. Just a quiet arrival that, at first glance, seemed completely ordinary. For many, it was just another trip. For others, a simple coincidence. But for those who understand the context, Spain was never a neutral destination. Spain carries memories. Spain holds unresolved connections. And Spain is a place where past names, no matter how far apart they try to stay, eventually orbit the same spaces again. Hours passed, and questions began to surface. Why Spain? Why now? And why so quietly? Sarah didn't arrive looking for attention. She didn't seek the spotlight. Yet sometimes, the absence of noise creates the loudest echoes. And then, without warning, it happened. In a relaxed social setting, a place where no one expected tension, Sarah walked in naturally. And there was Demet. No plan, no announcement, no deliberate provocation. But the encounter happened. According to people who were there, the atmosphere shifted instantly. No raised voices. No dramatic reactions. No exaggerated gestures for invisible cameras. Instead, there were glances, long pauses, and a tension so thick it could be felt in the air. Those moments where everyone pretends nothing is wrong, yet everyone knows something doesn't fit. Demet, clearly unprepared for this encounter, maintained her composure. No visible discomfort. No reaction that could be captured or twisted. But those familiar with her body language say it was a delicate and unexpected situation. Because no one wants to be placed in a moment they never asked for. Especially not like this. The encounter was brief. But brief was enough. Enough to set off a chain reaction that would quietly escalate behind closed doors. Because when the information reached Jan Yaman, the response was not what many expected. There was no cold indifference, no strategic silence. According to sources close to him, Jan expressed something deeply human. He didn't like that Demet had been placed in that situation, and he never would have wanted Demet and Sarah to cross paths in that way. Not as an accusation, not as a public statement, but as genuine concern. Because sometimes, even without intention, circumstances push people into uncomfortable spaces. If this story has you hooked so far, stay with us, because this was only the beginning. What followed wasn't public drama. It was emotional buildup. Tension without release. And eventually, that pressure found its outlet through a phone call that, according to whispers, was anything but calm. From that moment on, nothing felt entirely normal between those involved. Outwardly, everything appeared unchanged. But privately, questions lingered. Because when a private conversation leaves more questions than answers, its real impact doesn't show immediately. It reveals itself slowly. After the unexpected meeting between Sarah and Demet in Spain, the situation didn't fade away as a coincidence. It moved into a much more delicate territory. A space where emotions aren't displayed publicly, but weigh twice as much. The information reached Jan in fragments. No full details. No complete picture. But enough to create discomfort. Sources say that after that phone call, the emotional atmosphere shifted quietly but noticeably. And what bothered Jan the most wasn't the encounter itself. It was the context. The idea that Demet had been pulled into a situation she neither sought nor chose. That was the breaking point. For him, that crossing should never have happened. Not because of hidden intentions, but because it placed everyone in an awkward position with no clear way out. There were no public clarifications, no attempts to calm speculation, and that silence only fueled curiosity. That's when Jan decided to call Sarah. Not impulsively, not casually. It was a long conversation, heavy with restrained tension, marked by long silences. The kind of silences that say more than words ever could. According to what is being said, Jan made it clear he didn't want Demet to be placed in that position. That this scenario was never something he desired or encouraged. Each person processed the situation from their own perspective. No rush to explain, but a clear sense that something important was at stake. The conversation reportedly focused on boundaries, not public blame, not press narratives, but emotional responsibility. Sarah, on her side, insisted there was no intention behind the encounter, that her presence in Spain wasn't meant to cause discomfort, that everything had been a coincidence. But even coincidences have consequences. And that realization made the conversation increasingly tense. Because not every conflict needs to be visible to be deep. And not every discomfort can be resolved immediately with words. Sources confirm it wasn't a shouting match. No direct accusations. But it was a difficult exchange where neither side felt fully understood. The call ended without clear agreements, without promises, without closure. Only one shared feeling remained. Something had cracked. Not publicly, not dramatically, but enough to mark a before and after. And it's often in these silent moments that the most decisive choices begin to take shape. While that conversation faded into quiet distance, another decision was forming. One not born from confrontation, but from the need to resolve what had been left hanging. That silence after the call wasn't accidental. It was the prelude to a move that would change the direction of this story. Away from media noise and public interpretation, Demet Özdemir made a decision few expected. Instead of feeding rumors or staying silent, she chose a more personal path. Demet asked to speak with Jan, not to clarify public versions, not to answer headlines, but to talk honestly. Her proposal was simple: a dinner, a private, calm space, far from prying eyes. For Demet, it wasn't about reopening the past or justifying anything. It was about closing a cycle of accumulated silence, because unfinished stories weigh heavier than spoken truths. The dinner took place quietly. No official announcements, no leaked photos, no public confirmations. There was no intention to turn it into a spectacle. Still, as always, information found its way out, and with it came the inevitable questions. What was said at that table? Was it an emotional reunion? An attempt at reconciliation? Or simply a necessary conversation to establish clear boundaries? What is certain is that after that dinner, the atmosphere changed. The noise softened, reactions became more measured, and silence took center stage. Not an empty silence, a deliberate one. For many, that silence was the clearest sign that each person had chosen how to move forward without public explanations or forced gestures. There were no aggressive denials, no indirect messages, no desperate attempts to control the narrative. Only distance, respect, and a calm that spoke louder than any statement. Because not every story needs a scandalous ending to be meaningful. Some stories end in silence,